Hello, hello, hello. Petra. Wow, how are you doing? Thanks for stopping in. Team Nate, what's up? Appreciate y'all stopping in. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The new and improved GIM Project show. Hey, Lens Creative. We've got a good one for you tonight. A really good one for you tonight. Kyra Wilson Art is going to be the guest. And I'm hoping that we bring a friend of ours up real quick at the beginning too to see if we can get some information on that. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. There's my brother right there. I think I saw him. Thank you very much, Lens Creative. Chad, I think I just saw you somewhere. Maybe not. Let's see here. See if I can go grab Chad Rev Art, y'all. See if I can go grab that dude. Somebody send... Oh, there it is. Somebody please send Chad Rev Art. There we go. Thanks, Chad. Damn it. I'm trying to grab him. He's moving so fast, he's hard to grab, y'all. He's hard to grab. There's our dude right there, I believe. He's coming.
Yo!
Yo, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Haley Beth, it is Chad Rev Art. Woo!
Oh,
what's up,
man.
brother?
You almost caught me doing something on TikTokly with that camera, buddy.
No. Thank you, Haley Beth.
There we
Haley
go.
Beth sent you
Thank
up.
you.
I appreciate that, Haley
Thank
Beth.
you.
One of my
What's up, Lance?
amazing friends and moderators. Thank you. Hey, Dirty. Hey, Lance. So, man, I think we got a good forum. It's going to be fast moving. This artist tonight that is going to be on, dude, she don't need us.
Nope.
At all. But I am so stoked that she would come on here. We need her, though, very much.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
She is an amazingly talented. I love her work. You know, you've heard me talk about her work. I love her work.
Oh, yeah.
She's incredibly
I've been watching
talented.
her work for a long time, too.
Guardian, I see you in the chat. Greg, raise your hand if Greg ends up in the chat. If he doesn't end up in the chat, I got you, Guardian. Give me a minute or two here. I see you too, Kyra. And I want to thank you, Kyra, because the reason I'm going to be able to bring Guardian up is because Kyra was kind enough to not mind doing that. Normally, this isn't something I would do, but a friend of ours had a problem with his account. There's someone that's going to try to help him out. So we're going to bring him up real quick. No, you're not late. You're good, man. It was going to take me a minute or two to kind of tell people what's going on. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to bring Guardian up. Guardian's going to tell us briefly what happened to Greg's account and what we can do to help, if anything. And then we're going to have Kyra Wilson Art on. I've got a few announcements to make in between those things. And anything Chad wants to say, he's going to go ahead and say, because Kyra was also kind enough to say if we didn't make it right at 9:15, if it was closer to 9:30 or something, she'd be okay with that. Because we've got things we need to talk about too. So, Chad, you got anything quick you need to throw in, bro?
Man, I don't think I have anything too terribly important to throw in. I'm just, I woke up from a nap and I'm here and I'm ready to write.
You're well rested. All right. Your piece, the mahogany, beautiful piece that looks like marble that you've done. How close are we? I'm going to put you in the big box really quick.
Sure. Do it.
If you don't mind. And brag on you a little bit. Got to brag on you a little bit, bro.
Let's bring this in, huh? Wow. Yeah, I am going to do I got to do a wet sand on her. Let me move my stuff here. She still has a base that's down here as well. But yeah, I'm going to do a wet sand and some finishing sanding. And then we're going to be doing a finish with a linseed oil recipe.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Oh, dude.
Trying to get around all the sides here for you, buddy.
It's hard to see in the light, but I've seen it lit, man. It is incredible.
Yeah. I wasn't exactly lit to show her off. I was lit to be on here, and well, just lit, you know, in general.
Thank you, Darcel, so much. Thank you for the subscription. That's amazing. And she's throwing Chad Rev art pictures. Chad, check it out, bro, in the chat. One of the
Yo, that's
if you are
awesome.
anybody that subscribes to the Gin Project gets to throw Chad Rev art pictures around.
Yes.
There's
That
some
is
other people
cool.
on there too. Dude, that piece is amazing. It looks great over your
Thank
shoulder,
you.
bro. Unbelievable.
Thank
work,
you.
man.
Thank you. She's so
You're
close to
incredible,
being
sir.
done. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I've seen you stress over it, man. I've seen you in the back behind the scenes contemplating, doing that mad scientist. Like, I swear his hat would be turning around on his head like this while he was talking. It's good, man.
Yeah,
It's good stuff.
I act
bro.
all cool about it when the camera's off. I'm a nervous wreck going, oh, God.
I'm
What up,
shrinking you. All right, y'all. That is awesome, Chad. We're going to get back to that later, dude. Thank y'all for being in the chat. Thank everybody for being here. I appreciate it. What we're going to do right now, y'all, if one of the moderators would please send up Guardian. Guardian's going to take about 5 or 10 minutes here, and he's going to tell us what's going on with Greg's account and if anything or what we might be able to do to help. We'll give them just a minute to get everything together. Thank you, Haley Beth.
There
She
he
is
is.
on it, man. I'm telling you.
Thank you, Haley.
All right, let's do a sound check. Guardian, you got me.
I got you loud and clear.
Right on. Well, hey, look, man, and I really appreciate you coming on to talk about this. I guess Greg's not able to make it at the moment, but I'm sure you're the one with the information. So talk to us, man.
Well, I wanted to start out and say I appreciate you inviting me in and giving me the opportunity to be a part of this. I've watched
Of course,
some of
yes,
your
sir.
content and absolutely love what you do. Absolutely love it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So, real quick, I had
Hey,
a
I'm
mutual
sorry,
friend.
Guardian.
Yep.
I'm gonna cut you off for just a second. I see Greg's in the house. If y'all would, if you can, I know we got him. I know he's got enough people. Send him up if we can, if it'll work. And then I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Guardian.
No worries.
I see Greg there. And
Howdy
Greg,
do.
let's get us. Hey, buddy. All right, we got a sound check on Greg. Cool, man. Welcome, Greg. All right, guys. Let us know, Guardian. Talk to us.
So Greg and I had a mutual friend, and these friends had known me for a decent amount of time, and some of them met me due to the fact that I knew people that were in not only my agency but other agencies. So that's how I ended up meeting Greg, and I found out that Greg had one of his accounts stolen and hacked. And so I took it on as a project of mine to try to help Greg out. I know what it's like to lose something that you've worked so hard on for so long, put all that blood, sweat, and tears into. And so I kind of took that on to try to help him out, just trying to see what I can do. And I'm in the process of trying to reach out to TikTok because I had my phone break and I had to get back into my accounts. I still have not accessed 3 of my accounts that I need to get back. Working on that. But when I logged into this account on my new phone, once I got a new phone, it was not showing the reports anymore in the report section. So I'm in the process of trying to reach back out. The last I heard from TikTok was them asking me for information regarding the creation and the legitimacy of the ownership of said account. So I'm working on that. That's the progress. I'm waiting to hear back from TikTok right now on that. And I let Greg know that, he needs to get back into that email that was attached to it originally in case they reach out to him. So that's where everything's at. That's the best I was able to do at the time. I'm hoping it progresses further. I'm hoping I'll be able to get it back. But fingers crossed. No luck quite yet. In the meantime, I'm just trying to push for people to follow Greg. I've got a group of us that had something in the works to help get his followers up on the count that he has now. So
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
Guardian.
and if
Thank
you
you,
will,
man.
I'll talk just a minute. I
Sure.
know that you did a video saying for how many people to follow me, and I appreciate you doing that. First of all, I wanted to say that. This morning I had an idea, so I went over to my old account. It still allows me to go into the account and make comments or see what's going on. So I went in there today and went to the following, the people that I followed and that follow me, friends, and I started following as many of them as I could. I mean, one right after another. I was able to follow about 300 of them, and so far almost 200 of them has showed up to follow me back on my account. So it seems to be working pretty good. And if I can get as many of them as I can to come over there, it works for me. And other than that, I didn't know that about the Guardian's phone up there. I apologize. Sorry that you lost your phone, buddy.
Well, I
Well, I
appreciate
know that I'd also like to thank everybody. I know that we put out some content, and several dozen people contacted me saying that they gave you some follows. So thank everybody that did that. Thank you.
Yes.
So you got about 2 minutes left. So is there anything what do you need from us?
Nothing. I don't
What
need
can we do
anything
to
at all.
help?
You know what? I am content with what's going on.
No. What is the plan? What is it that we can do to help? How do we either help Guardian or is the plan to try to build your account, Greg? And in the meantime, Guardian is going to try to recover your old account. So the plan, it
Yeah.
seems to me, is to get as many follows as possible on the new account so you can go live. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, if I can get followers over here to build it up, that would be good. Like I said, I've been trying to do that myself. I didn't know that Guardian had problems with his phone. That's why I didn't. I was wondering how come we hadn't heard from each other.
Yeah.
But there's another person that reached out to me on your video today. Did you
Yeah, I
see
don't know
that
any of those
comment?
people. I don't know those
Yeah,
people.
I don't know
I
them
have no
either.
idea
That's
who
what
they
I
are.
told him. I said that's how I got in trouble with where I'm at now is by letting people reach out to me like that. So,
Okay.
so I'm just going to let it ride. Everything's going real good. I appreciate what you guys did do. I appreciate the
Okay.
videos you put out. I noticed them. That's all appreciated, man. I thank you very much for all that. And I appreciate your help.
Of course.
So
Of course.
in the
Okay.
spirit of helping Greg, real quick, I apologize. Just real quick. In the spirit of helping Greg, I would ask as many people as possible share out his content, share out his videos, whatever he's got on his account. Try to get people to follow him that way, and also whenever people are live, try to invite Greg in, because with his presence, the more present he is, the more likely people in the live are going to start following him. Let's get the content up, let's get the likes up, let's get his likes in his lives up, and share his lives out as much as you can. Secondly, in the spirit of trying to get his old account back, if we can get enough people to submit a ticket with his name, with the username of the 1 point something million follower account that was hacked, if we get enough people to put in tickets saying, hey, my friend's account was hacked, TikTok's got no choice but to acknowledge that. So that might help get your account back that way as well.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
I appreciate all the help, you guys.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
on my
Okay.
own behalf, I will say this, and this might sound like a very rude thing to say, but I am losing my voice. I am losing my wind very, very swiftly and very, very abruptly. So if you want me to sing happy birthday to you, you better start asking, because it's not going to be long. I'm not going to have a voice left.
Y'all get those orders in for real.
Y'all get the orders in right now. All right, Guardian,
Go
Greg,
follow our
thank
dude.
y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody, this
Appreciate
is
you
what we
very
got to
much.
do. Absolutely, absolutely.
Many followers
Mods,
as
if
we
you
can
could-
get. That's what we're after.
Much love. I
Gotcha,
appreciate
buddy.
y'all.
If I could get y'all to drop those two out for me, please, mods. I appreciate you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
So here's what
guys.
we need to do. We need to make sure to give Greg as many followers and as much support as we're able to. Anybody that's able, go maybe check with Guarding about something you can turn in, a ticket you can turn in. And I would imagine that's part of a verification process. Enough of those happen, they can figure that out. So,
Yeah.
Greg's a friend of Greg's a friend. I've never seen Greg do anything but be kind to people. He sings happy birthday. I know he commissioned Chip, who is in the chat. to do a piece of art for John Doty, another project we're working
That's
on.
cool.
Project Chad's working on. So Greg is an amazingly kind dude. That's why we did that. Normally we don't bring someone on this show and interrupt because we have a guest on and we want the focus to be on the guest. But the guest today is going to give us all an education, and she didn't mind at all. So thank you, Kyra, also for working with us on that. I'm going to go through the announcements just to get. Hey, Courtney, I'm going to go through the announcements just to give Kyra, if you're in the chat still, a heads up. Give me a few minutes to go through some stuff here, and then we'll get you up and we'll start doing our thing. Thank you to Guardian. Thank you to Greg. And you might notice we're doing the show a little different now. So now the Again Project show will be on 9 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday nights. Hey, Chris, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. I hope everything's going okay with you. That guy right there is going to be on the show pretty soon. And we're going to, all of that first content, all of the very first part that we used to do where we were sharing information about statistics and TikTok navigation and all that, we might drop some content on that occasionally, or if you catch us, we're happy to answer questions, but we're going to shorten things, and we're going to go for about 2 hours because my guy up here has an adorable little one that he tucks into bed every night. And even if we're running over, he's going to leave. He's got stuff to do. So that's our hard break. I love you all, but
I love her more.
So that's our hard break. I've got another little surprise for y'all too. And we'll get to that later. But so thank you, Missy J. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. We appreciate y'all. This is the new Again Project show. The format's going to be slightly different. We won't normally have Greg and Guardian on at the beginning of the show. We were just lucky enough to have them on today. And everybody that went over, a lot of y'all, I mean, dozens of y'all reached out to go over and give him some follows. So I appreciate that. When I saw his account this morning, it was below 200, and then it was over 3 something. And I know that I know that he's been doing some things too, but I know there were quite a few of you guys that went over there to help him out. So I appreciate y'all doing that. That's an amazing community thing to do. Also, we have our good friend Haley, who has been moderating like a champ down there already today. And Haley is now the co-host for Burgess the Painting DJ show on Friday night. So y'all make sure to go on Friday nights. That's at 6 p.m. I believe that's Eastern time. I'm sure Haley will correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
But at 6 o'clock Eastern time, Haley's going to be co-hosting Burgess the Painting DJ's Paint Show. So congratulations, Haley. That is absolutely amazing.
Give her some applause, guys.
To a more deserving person. Everybody, Eric the Airbrush Artist knows what's up. Y'all please drop some hearts for Haley in the chat. Some of those white hearts with the purple around them. Appreciate you, Haley. You are absolutely amazing. And by the way, I have one other special announcement for Southern Gothic. My crush, Kiki, is now officially Haley Beth's new art sister on TikTok. So Kiki has broken through. She is now friends with Haley. It has been a months-long project. So y'all make sure to check Haley out on Friday night at 6 p.m. She is going to be co-hosting Burgess the Painting DJ's Painting Show, and that is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. One other thing, or two other things I'd like to say. Our buddy Hanson has a contest going on until the 20th of this month, where if you go check out his Cash App, he's got a few designs, or you go check out a few designs for shirts. And if you go to his Cash App, you can vote whichever particular shirt you want, however many times you want. And there's going to be like a comic book theme, a horror theme, or a video game theme, or the three. And if you win that contest, you get the very first edition of whichever shirt gets selected. So maybe help out my buddy Hanson over there. Go check him out. I'm going to see him 1 month from today. Him and I believe Aaron Hammonds and Hayda Quinn, and there might be a couple other people over in Knoxville. So let's do what we can to support Hanson. And I got some art from a couple people, and I'm gonna put out content on it, so I'm not gonna talk about that just yet. But I got this from Crimson Rose, and it's another package with her postcards for positivity and her stickers in it. So that stuff is going to be going out as well. So thank y'all. And I also have a piece over here from a buddy at Weird Designs Art, who is Chip, in the chat right here. And I have some art from him too. I'll do some content on that as soon as I'm able, y'all. It's stacking up, but I promise I'll get there. So that's all the announcements. Chat, you got any announcements, sir?
Man,
Your
do I have any announcements?
Your show is
My
on
show?
Thursday nights
Yeah, at 6
at 7
Central.
Eastern.
Uh-huh,
Yours truly
6
is the
Central, 7
co-host.
Eastern. Yes, I got a little person you guys might have heard of as my co-host. His name is the Gin.
And that's a
It will be.
cool feature.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
The one you had was Zach.
Yes. The window.
Yes.
About to get to that one. Yes. Actually, I am about to, as soon as I get able to, I'm going to post some more content where we did a window segment with Dirty 530 as well. I have another one coming up with Jay that we did that will be released probably tomorrow, I'm guessing.
Those were both good.
Yeah, so we will be on Thursday on the 4th of July. We're on for about an hour plus. Starts at 6 Central. And we are going to have another episode of The Window. So you guys make sure to tune in. And yeah, that's where we're at. And I'm sure I'm going to tell a real funny story about a possum and my mother-in-law.
I can't wait.
It happened.
Possum and his mother-in-law, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Look, I'm excited. We only went over by 6 minutes. So we're doing awesome. We got all the announcements in. And we managed to get Greg up and Guardian. So let's switch gears now. One of the reasons that I'm excited to have Kyra on tonight is I knew already that she was really good at what she did, and that when she smoked, she was really seemed to be knowledgeable, about what she was saying. And in getting the opportunity to have an actual conversation with her at length, she's even more amazing than I thought. So her art is this, surrealistic whimsy, right? And it is a style of its own. It's what it caught my attention at first. But then as I would stop in or watch her lives, the way that she approached explaining things to people, the way she dealt with people was just impressive. It was kind, knowledgeable, very thoughtful, in my opinion anyway. So, and she proved to be even more of that. She's an accomplished artist. She's been in galleries around the world for the last 20-something years. I can list off some of the countries, for fun, if we wanted to. England, Portugal, Canada, Brazil, Australia, Spain, Germany. I could go as far as to say Estonia. So she's been all over the place. She's done contracts all over the place. She is a bona fide badass artist worldwide, and she also happens to have a business degree. She almost got a degree in English, and she almost got a degree in some other stuff. I'm telling you guys, the lady is amazing. And to be super talented, to be super, super smart, and to also be super kind isn't something you find all in the same person normally. And so just the fact that she would take her time to come here with us to spread some knowledge and some love, really. I personally am grateful to you, Kyra. If nobody else is, I am. So, and I know this guy is. So
I'm a Kyra fan, guys. She's one of the artists that I watch when I do get time to sit and watch people.
Not in a creepy way.
Sometimes I'm just creepy by nature, so like I could be watching just normal, And some people might be like, dude, you're kind of creepy.
If we could we please send, please go ahead and send Kyra up. Let's make sure that we get the mics checked and make sure everything's working, and then we'll proceed from there. But so in my conversation with her, it comes across very evidently that her goal is to help other people. It really is that simple.
Hey!
We even get to see her.
You get to see me.
Hi, Kyra.
Hi,
How are you? Thank
I'm
you
good.
so much.
I'm going to be in between
really-
my glasses because I can see you from afar, but then I can't read the comments.
I do the same thing. I'm with you.
We'll
I'm
be
with
back
you.
and forth.
I've got
So-
2 pair
so
here,
I-
if that helps.
So I'm going to go ahead and bring you up into the larger box if that's okay, or unless
No,
you'd
that's
rather
okay.
stay where you're at. I'll
No,
do
that's
whatever
fine.
you. Okay. So this is Kyra Wilson Art, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you
Hello.
so much for joining us.
Welcome.
Did I get anything wrong in my description? You're incredibly brilliant. You're an amazing artist, and you're super humble. Is all that? I'm just teasing, Kyra. I know. I'm
spot
just
on.
teasing with you. How do you respond to that, right? So that's my perception of you. Now that you're here, please tell us a little bit about yourself, just to break the ice.
In what respect? Just the art stuff?
Well,
or-
just general, just general. What you're willing to share as far as I live on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Just your general, basics.
I'm up north. I'm in Vermont. I live in the woods. I've been married almost 29 years. I've got 2 adult kids, and I've been doing art my whole life. So I don't know
Exactly.
exactly what to
Perfect.
share.
That was it.
Okay.
Perfect. Exactly
Ta-da.
that. Exactly that. So yeah, there's no. We're gonna get right to picking your brain, if that's okay. And
Go
in the
for it.
in the conversation that we had, you talked about, and I'm going to go through a couple of these things, and I know they incorporate a couple topics, and we'll bounce back and forth. But you said some things that really struck me, things that I believe in as well. You were talking about a rising tide lifts all ships. You were talking about that, nobody's buying the painted apple; they're buying the picture of the apple that you painted, and these to me went into the general thought process of being an artist. Right, that's where it hit home to me. Of the base. But before we talk about the strategy of business or how to do that portion of it or how to get in a gallery, just being an artist, like coming to terms with what you want out of being an artist. Can we start there, because that was really interesting points that you made to me on that.
You mean like deciding your path, or?
Yes, exactly. Like when you decide that you wanted to be an artist, you said that you mentioned to me that there were people that found out pretty quickly that they didn't want to monetize it, that it was something special that they wanted to hold on to. Other people tried to monetize it, but they would go about it the wrong way because they didn't really understand what it was that they wanted to do. So just people that are just deciding they want to be an artist and that this is going to be their dream.
Yeah, so one of the side things that I do, and I only take a couple clients a year, is I professionally mentor other artists who want to be professional artists, or they are professional artists and they're trying to figure things out. It all is individualized for what works for them. And I also take on some interns, like high school, college interns and stuff, 1 a year, maybe 2. And with that, we look at, what does art mean to you? What does success mean to you? Excuse me. What is it that you want out of all of this? Because it's individualized. If you're looking at something very structured, I'm married to an engineer. An engineer's path is pretty structured. You go to school, you start as an associate, you work your way up the ladder and everything. But in art is not a ladder. Art is like a spider web, and you can take a million. It's a choose your own adventure book. I'm old. I don't know if anybody remembers those, but it's a choose your own adventure book.
I do. Can you see how excited I am?
I was
She
cheating. Went
reads
back
5
and
to
forth.
7 books a week, y'all.
Yeah,
She reads
I
half
read
a
lot of
dozen books a week, y'all.
I do. I do. I read a lot of books. But anyway, art is not a linear path. And because of that, everybody's journey is unique. And it's unique to the kind of art you do. It's unique to where you are in your life. It's unique to who you are and what you want to achieve and what success means to you, because success is not necessarily money. Success is not necessarily fame. And you need to figure out what that is. And I have taken on clients where we've really dug into it, and the person went, wait, I just realized that monetizing this, making it a business, feels so different to me that I don't want to lose that. That is something that I use as my solace, my outlet, my, all this stuff. And that monetizing it changes that significantly, because you have to, if you're going to make a living at this like I do, you have to look at it as a business. That changes everything. And so there were people who I've had in the past who are like, I don't want to make a business out of it. I just realized I want to stay with my mainstream job and I want to keep art for myself, and I'll still sell my work at like a co-op or something, but that is no longer my goal. My goal is just to, and that success meant to them with art is that it completed part of themselves and they didn't need to monetize it. Whereas other ones, I've worked on, gallery proposals, business plans, whatever different path. There's everybody's art is different, music, whatever. It is so individualized. It's like a fingerprint, and it isn't like that in other businesses except the artistic field. So
that all of that.
Yes.
And it's Chad, you had something, buddy?
No, I just was in agreement. I said yes.
Right on. So that to me, in my mind, when we were talking, was kind of like the basics, right? The groundwork. That's the first stuff you've got to figure out. I'm going to be an artist. Maybe I want to do this professionally. These are the things that I need to consider. What do I want to get out of it? What am I losing by? What is it going to change by monetizing and all of that stuff? Now we've made the decision. Okay, we do want to become professional artists, and I would like to get my art in a gallery in France. I don't know anybody in France. I'm making this up, a hypothetical, right?
That's okay.
I want to. Let's say that I wanted to get one of my pieces in a show in France. And I'm just picking some place because you've been all over the place. So, and the place itself doesn't matter. I'm just using that as an analogy.
Yeah.
Is that a good starting point, or do we need, is it a ladder in the sense that maybe we need to get something in a local gallery first, or we need to get something in a state gallery first, or how does that kind of play out?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is I want to back everything up and say you need to understand what a gallery is. It is a sales channel. That's it. It is the same as you selling off your front porch. It is literally a sales channel, and there's nothing amazing. It isn't the pinnacle of anybody's career. It is a business that you partner with, and that's part of why you need to understand the business side of it, and that's it. And so when you look at galleries, it's about, what does a gallery do for you? If it does nothing, if you're driving all your own sales, if everything you create you are selling, why do you need a gallery? You don't, unless you're chasing a certain level of fame. That's a different path, and that's a whole different approach, including to your work. It is very different. So all of this becomes this individualized thing. So, but say it fit into your plan and everything. Say it fit into the gallery is the path for you. The way you go about with galleries is you start, if your work is, you feel you have a cohesive portfolio, which means that it's not all over the place. You don't have space aliens. So I'm a painter, so I'm going to talk from that, but I could talk from sculpture or woodworking too. But if your woodworking stuff, say you're doing wood sculptures, but you also suddenly you have chairs and stuff in there too, and you're like, why am I looking at this picture of a sculpture where it's a woman and then there's this end table? That's not cohesive. If you're painting and there's space aliens and then there's fluffy dogs, like what am I looking at? Now that can cross over, but in general, you want a cohesive portfolio that makes sense. Everything kind of goes together. A gallery is essentially a cohesive portfolio of multiple artists that come together, and they know who they're catering to, their clientele, what they're kind of looking for. They know that they sell space aliens or they sell end tables, and that's the kind of stuff that they're looking for. So you do your research. You research the gallery and say, does my work fit here? Is it too close to somebody else's work? Because then they won't take you either. But does it fit? Does it complement?
Wow, that's a good thought.
You know, you have to do your research. And then you need to look at what the gallery's policies are. Are you allowed to approach them? Do they do open calls? Are they completely closed? You know, are they closed network? It's only invite, you know. Do your research, find out who they are. Don't just bombard them. Don't just send pictures and things. You send them an email or a letter. Excuse me. My asthma is really bothering me tonight, so I apologize.
I'm having a drink every 5 seconds too. So I'm
No,
with you.
I'm short of breath. I used my inhaler before I came on here, so I apologize. But it is something where you do your research on it. You reach out to them respectfully. You don't send them files. You reach out to them and say, hey, this is who I am. I think I'd be a good match with your gallery because my work fits with your gallery. I'd love to open a conversation about working with you. How would I go about submitting to you? What would you prefer? And they might come back, they might ignore you. They might come back and say, hey, we only do open calls, or we only invite only. Or they might say, hey, send us some of your work. You can put your link to your website there, which, by the way, you do need a website. You need a web presence. You need a political, like, landscape internet presence. Not political, but you need a presence. If you don't have a footprint on the internet, nobody's going to look at you gallery-wise. It's just the nature of the beast right now. So your website needs to be cohesive too. It needs to make sense. It needs to be easy to use, and it needs to be a gallery owner or an art director goes in there and they go, okay, this is what this person is. This is what they do. This is how they represent. I can work with them. I can't, whatever. And that's honestly, you know, what a lot of them do. But a lot of them will come back. They won't even click on your link, and they'll just be like, yeah, sure. Send 10 to me. Send me 10 images, your best images. And people are tempted to send their best, but that's not always cohesive. The best thing you can send is cohesive images, even if 5 of them maybe aren't your best work, but they all go together and create a nice little show. And so you put your best foot forward in a way that they will work for you and you will work for them. And it's a business partnership. It's not you getting into a gallery, it's you working with a gallery because you're partners. So, and if the gallery can't do anything for you, there's no point in you being in it. You know, a gallery is marketing outreach. It is reaching clientele that you don't know. It's handling a sale. It's shipping the product. These are all things that, like, if you're going to price a painting, this is built in, or a sculpture, or you know, a table, whatever. This is built into the cost of your product because either you're doing the work, because if you sell it, I guarantee you are talking to people, you're doing outreach, you're marketing your pieces, you're doing all of that. If you sell it, you deserve to be paid for that work too. That's work. You know, even though you're talking to your friends and maybe it was a friend of a friend who ended up seeing it and buying it, that's networking. You're still working and you deserve to be paid for that. It's the same as the gallery owner talking to their friends who came over for an opening the last time or whatever, saw your work and bought it. You know, you deserve to be paid for it. So your price should always be the same as what's in the gallery. And you're either giving the gallery the chunk or you're giving yourself the chunk, but it is just a sales venue. So you have to, don't put galleries on a pedestal and think art world galleries. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't for you. I've worked with galleries, I've worked on my own. It is literally just a place to hang a sign. So, and they're great. The good galleries are worth their weight in gold. So, but you know, I will say this too. I've been seeing this going around. A gallery should never charge you to show, ever. They either earn their commission or they aren't worth your time. I'm really mad about this. So there's a lot of galleries and things opening up where they are like, hey, you have to give us, you know, $200 and then we'll show your stuff. And then if it sells, we take 40, 50%. No.
Sounds like the music industry.
Yeah. It's happening all over. So, but
Wow.
that was maybe a little wordy, but
No, that is all.
No.
I'm so glad to have this, and this will, provided nobody messes it up. No, I'm teasing. This will be content over on the YTube, so people will be able to come look at this information. That was great. That was a tutorial in the basics, and then if you wanted to go the gallery path, here's some things to think about. Could we also do that same mental exercise on, like, if you decided to gallery it in your path, and you might, as a painter or as a woodworker or sculptor, and we wanted to start, getting our stuff out there in other ways?
yeah. So one of the things that you have to understand is your market. Who are you selling this to? You know, is it a 20-year-old with, you know, just out of college money? Is it, you know, an older retiree? who has this kind of fixed but retired income? Is it the middle crowd that has a growing income, but they're also faced with economic challenges? Who are these people? Where are they located? Who's going to want your stuff? And you're not going to have all the answers, but you're going to have some of them. My demographic tends to vary because, again, nothing is linear in art. And so, but you kind of pay attention. I have a bulk of people who buy a certain type of art from me, and they tend to be 40 and up. And then I have a bunch that are like 25 to 40, and they buy something different. But I also know that this price range and this price range tends to be different, although there is some overlap. So you have to know your market. Who's your demographic? Who are you selling to? Once you know who they are, then you'll know where they are. And that's how you figure out where you need to be. Are they on one of the other apps? Are they at local art fairs and things like that? Where do you reach these people? Are they going into the co-op galleries, the whatever? It's every marketing plan, every business plan in art is completely individualized for you, because your art is very unique. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, your art is unique to you. And so you have to identify those unique characteristics of your work and then make them work for you, figure out where these people are, and that's how you're going to reach them. And maybe it's an online thing, maybe it's Etsy, maybe it's TikTok, So, but maybe it is a gallery, maybe it is agent representation. So it's very individualized. I would, with the woodworker stuff, that would be something that you would need to dig more into. Look for people who are selling things that are similar to yours. Where are they reaching people? Who's doing well? I mean, you can do that. You can look in. You don't want to compare yourself. It's not a competition. But you can take some pointers and go, that guy makes sculptures like that too. Not exactly the same, but he's doing really well. Who's he selling to? Where am I seeing these ads and these comments? And, who are these people who are commenting? Is it this one sided, this demographic, or hey, everybody's in Kentucky or everybody's in Maine or something? It's like, okay. Right. Spot your demographic, and it's going to be different. The people who chat with you are going to be different than the ones who buy from you usually, but
right.
So, and that's okay too, because the people who chat with you, they are priceless just as buyers are, because they talk to you and they talk about you. Mm-hmm. And you never know when they're going to talk about you to somebody who actually wants to buy. Sure. So, value everybody who walks through the door.
Right. That's a really good point, though, because I'm in one of those situations where my portfolio is pretty spread out. Right. I do instruments, I do antiques, and I also do custom stuff. It's almost three different worlds in a lot of ways. The people that I deal with the music stuff are a completely different crowd than the folks I deal with at the antique store. And that's a completely different crowd than the folks I make custom stuff with a lot of the times. So what you're saying hits very close to them, and understanding your audience really does matter, because a lot of standing and talking to people, they may not actually purchase something there. But I have had people come back, and so that you talked to at the antique store gave me your information, and now I want to get a table from you or whatever. So it surprises me that doesn't cross the mind of more folks. Like, understand who it is that you are trying to sell your product to. I mean, does that happen a lot? It seems like that's a very common.
Well, it's one of these things. Well, it's hard to know who's going to want your work, and then people who are creative tie their soul up in what they do, and they get insecure about it, and they think, who's going to want my work anyway? And then that muddies the waters, and it makes it so you can't see what you need to see. We get in our own way a lot.
Can we talk about that part? Yes.
Yeah, we can definitely.
Yes, you talked in our conversation. You talked about that quite a bit, and that was yes. Can we go there then? That's perfect.
Yeah, and if I'm missing comments, I apologize. I can see faces, but I can't see the words without getting closer. So I apologize for that. If anything scrolls by, you guys are gonna have to alert me to it.
They're used to both of us being blind. It's okay.
Yes. You're in good company. Whoops. Thank you, Darcel. Yes, create web presence, a cohesive presentation, and research your gallery. That's a good summation. Perfect.
Just research your venue in general. It doesn't have to be a gallery. Say you wanted to set up at a Renaissance festival or a woodworking festival or a Celtic festival or something, bluegrass. You don't You need to decide where you want to be, because even if you're applying to a venue or like Dragon Con or something like that, you have to know your market. You have to know who you're talking to, that you're applying to. You have to know, you got to do your background. You got to do your legwork on this. And it's hard because we are people who could really use a staff, and we're the ones who can't afford to have one.
Right.
So we have to wear all these different hats, and it's hard. It's, my advice to like the interns and stuff is, well, first off, don't go to college for art unless it's a networking thing, or that's the only way people learn in different ways. If you really need to learn with somebody over your shoulder like that, that's totally cool. But if you're somebody who there's so many resources out there, free resources or Atelier courses online, that kind of thing. If you can learn that way, and then take some free business courses. So edx.org has business courses from places like Harvard, Stanford, all sorts of stuff. And they're free. You can literally go through, take the course, learn the information. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to pay for that. You can learn accounting, and you should know accounting at least a little bit. You should know what overhead is. You should know what your costs are. And in business, we have something called an opportunity cost, which everybody should know. You talked about that earlier. Every choice you make, there's a cost. No matter how good the choice is, it's going to cost you something, and that's okay. But in art, you really need to pay attention with that in any creative field, because the cost seems to hit us personally because we're so tied up into our work. So we get in our own way, because when you're creative, you're talking about creating something from nothing, right? If you're sculpting on a piece of wood, it was just a tree, and now it's something amazing that nobody else saw but you. If you're painting, you're taking a flat surface and turning it into something else. If you're taking pictures, photography, I was a professional photographer for a few years too. So if you're taking pictures, you're trying to share your vision that nobody else is seeing but you. And you're the one who captured that moment in time. You're the one who captured whatever was in that piece of wood and made it something that you saw. You knew it was there. You saw the, composition in your head for the painting, and that was there. And because you're bringing something into the world that doesn't exist yet, that is part of, this is where I sound all hokey, but this is where you're investing your soul, your energy, your creativity, your self very much into what you're creating. And when you're done, it is hard to disconnect. So think about those parents that are like helicopter parents or something, and then they are too invasive when the kids are adult kids. You have to learn to let it go. And you're going to look at whatever piece you have, and you'll know where all the flaws are. And that gets in your head and undermines you. And some people get in their head so badly with it that they can't start a piece because they're so afraid of messing it up, because they forget that art is failure. And what I mean by that is every piece that you will make, no matter what you're in, whether it's music, writing a book, it doesn't matter. Any creative field that you are in, whatever you make, you will have flaws. You will always be able to do better than what you did. And that is what you want. There's no failure in doing your best and knowing you could have done better. That just means you've just opened up the next door. And then there's some where you take a couple steps back too, and you're like, oh, that's going into the burn pile because that was bad. That's okay too. That's the way it's supposed to be. Art is failure. And that failure breeds new creativity. If you could make everything perfect from the moment you started, there would be no growth. There would be nowhere for you to go. There would be no achieving that next level. There would be no personal payoff. When I do something right, I'm like, oh, I did something right. Oh, I can do this now. I'm so excited.
Right,
that's amazing. And people who don't create don't know what that feels like, but it's a high. I mean, you were like, this is so amazing. I did that. And then it's like, oh, what else can I do? Something else? Can I do this other thing that I always wanted to do? And it opens up doors.
Right.
Every level is another level up, and there is no final level until you leave shuffle off this mortal coil. That's when you're done. That's it. So that's another thing too. People start a career and they're like, I have retirement age. I'm going to just sit on a beach. I mean, and you can do that. But if you're truly in the creative industry, you're probably never going to do that. This is not just a career, it's a life path. And so that
Mm-hmm.
muddles things when you're trying to sell. It muddles things when you're trying to figure out which way to go. It muddles things when, your social circle around you goes, I don't like that. All these other things that if you were just working a normal office job or something, and somebody said, "Oh, I don't like that," and you could, say you're an accountant, I don't like that. Well, what don't you like about the numbers? But you don't go home and cry to your dog because they
Like,
didn't like the formula you used,
why didn't they like my numbers?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you do, but probably not. Probably you go, okay, well, how else can I approach this? But when your soul's all tied up in it, instead of you saying, the first thing that any artist should do when they get a criticism type comment, excuse me, is ask whether this holds weight. Because they don't always do. Is this just somebody's preference, or is this something that's actionable? And
Yeah.
you have to ask that. And that includes when you give yourself criticism. And
Is
that
it
includes
actionable? I love that.
is it actionable? Is this something that I can actually improve on, change? Is this something that needs to be changed? Is it really a problem even? Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's just different and that makes some people uncomfortable, but that doesn't make it wrong.
Right.
So you have to kind of turn it over and you have to pull your personal ego and your hurt soul out of it because you're never going to please everybody. So you're always going to do that. But our feelings are very close to the surface. And when it comes to our art, we're being attacked from two fronts, right? And I don't mean it in a negative way. Somebody can just say, oh, I don't really like that. But to us, it's like an arrow to the heart. Like, what do you mean you don't like it? But you have to go, okay, that's okay. But the problem is when somebody says they don't like it, your insecurities go, oh, I knew we were wrong. And
Yeah.
then, so you're being hit on both sides,
Yeah.
and all you have is the thin skin in
Yeah.
the middle. And it's like, you have to stop that. You have to learn to, I've finished this piece. I know where the bodies are buried on it. I understand where all the flaws are, but that's not a flaw. That is progress. Every flaw is progress. Every flaw is the next opportunity for you to level up. And not everybody's opinion devalues what you created. Actually, nobody's opinion devalues what you created, but it can create a turning point. If somebody has, some suggestions or criticism about your work, you take it in, you say, is this actionable? Is it reasonable? Should I change my approach? And if you should, then make a plan, but don't do it with hurt in your heart. Do it.
Right.
You have to separate your sensitivity that is built in. It's natural. It is not a flaw that you feel that way, but it is something that you have to self-manage in order for you to move forward and grow the way you need to go. You're in a tight pot, and then you need to be in a bigger pot so you can grow. So
Yes, that it's a when you were talking about in our conversation, you were talking about this idea of you put so much into your art, and in a way, that's what drives it to be good, right? That's what drives that, and that also makes you so vulnerable because now you're out there, you're driven to do this thing, this piece, whatever it is, and you put. In my instance, Chad and I have had that conversation. That's why I was pointing at him earlier. Is we've talked about
absolutely.
that. We've talked about like you and I talked about, Kyra, where if I'm working on a piece for you and I have a bad call that day or something weird happens or I'm just not feeling the right energy is the word that I use, I might do something different on that given day. And when I first started being considered an artist, that was a confusing thing to me. Like I had to work through that and kind of figure that. We talked some about that. But and the actionable thing, right? Chad and I have had that conversation as well. Like we have this concept, but is it actionable? Is there anything that can be, is it so finding that balance between being driven to do something that is beyond your abilities almost, and being okay with the results of that, and just kind of dust yourself off and try again tomorrow kind of attitude. Seems to be prevalent among the folks that seem to do pretty well at this. Is that a fair?
So on the energy thing, you have to, like, everybody knows, like, if you have a normal car that takes unleaded gas, you don't put diesel in it, right? So if you're not feeling the right energy when you go to creatives are different. You can't just sit down and knock out, we're making pizzas today, so we've made a pizza. It's just not going to work that way. It's I
Can you
have to
say that
think.
again for the people in the back?
We're not making pizzas, y'all.
This is not. This industry is not a production without variance type industry. It's not just stamping them out, unless you actually are making stamps. So it's just, this is not mass production. These are one of a kind, unique, energy invested pieces. And you can't drive the car if you don't have the right fuel to put in it. And so if you're having a diesel day, then you don't do the unleaded project, And that's super important because I guarantee you will ruin it if you try, just like if you put diesel in an unleaded car. And if you don't know that, now you do. Don't do that.
I sat down earlier right here in this spot. I turned all my lights on to work. I got all my gear ready. I had everything set up, and I knew that I had the wrong fuel. And I turned and I sat there for a few minutes thinking about it and looking at the piece. I shut off all my lights, I put down my tools, I grabbed my phone, and I walked back inside my house. And that was a really, really hard thing to do because I got some deadlines pushing on me, and I'm almost done. Mm-hmm. But what you were just talking about happened to me literally today.
Well, and I mean, I can at least make you feel a little bit better about that too. When we have to back away from a piece, we're also not working. Our brains are working on what went wrong there, and also probably the reason why we don't have the right fuel is our brain is working on another project. And a lot of people don't understand that the actual work that goes into being an artist isn't just the sitting down and creating. There is so much going on in our heads. We're working on the next project. We're thinking about the materials we need. We're thinking about our inspiration. Oh, look at the pattern on the leaves. We're doing a lot of stuff in our head.
Yes.
It sounds very ADD, but it's not. It's like I'm looking at patterns, I'm looking at texture, I'm looking at color, I'm looking at shape,
it's the
form,
process.
function, all of that. And there's a lot. My husband, it took a while for him to understand that sometimes I look like I'm sitting there doing nothing, like reading another book. And but even when I'm reading my book, I'm working out what there's mental labor that is involved that doesn't look like we're doing anything. But we are. And so what we have to do is stop punishing ourselves for working on the other part of the legwork that has to be done for the other projects. If you punish the guy working in the pizza parlor because he has to go mop the floors because that's part of his job, and you're like, you didn't make pizzas, well, that doesn't make any sense because his whole job encompasses more than just standing there putting pepperonis on the pizza, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But we don't treat ourselves that way. We're like, oh, you didn't have the output today that I expected. And that's not creativity. We work to deadlines. It is extraordinarily difficult to work to deadlines. We do. But it is something that I don't think people understand the mental gymnastics that we have to do in order to meet those deadlines. So I'm saying this, I'm literally looking at my calendar, looking at my deadlines going, yep. So,
ladies and gentlemen, Kyra is speaking directly to me today.
It's within reach.
Yeah, I literally am looking at you and I'm looking at my calendar. I'm like, deadlines. So I have quite a few. But
yes.
Yeah, so I think part of being an artist is learning, how people have to learn to get along with their coworkers. And artists are very much in our heads a lot. And that means that we have to get to know ourselves and we have to learn how to work with ourselves and our own limitations and our strengths and our weaknesses, how to make that all work for us like a team would, and how to not be cruel to ourselves. If you wouldn't say this, if you had an assistant and they did this and you wouldn't say that to them, you should not be saying it to yourself. Period. Full stop. There's no room. Nobody works well under a bad boss. Nobody works well under a mean, cruel boss. So why on earth would you volunteer to be that to yourself? That makes zero sense, and you're not going to be productive.
Yeah.
You're not going to meet your deadlines. You're not going to get it done, and you're not going to feel good about your work. So why on earth would you do that to yourself, to your own business? You're not going to make money. You're not going to sell stuff. You're not going to get where you want to go. Whatever this amazing path is that you have in your head, that this is what success means for you, you're not going to get there if you don't help yourself get there. If you're hindering yourself, game over. And
Yeah.
that's hard because, let's face it, most people have a lot of really negative self-talk. I know I do. I have a million things I could list off of that I do wrong, that I have wrong about me, from everything.
Sure.
I have guilt about my cat. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's so
Yep.
many
Yeah,
things I could.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing like with when you finish a project, you know where all the problems are. Nobody knows you better than you. You know where all the flaws are. But what you don't do, and what nobody else does, is they don't constantly, hopefully, pick out every single flaw and beat you over the head with it for the rest of your life. Especially when they're trying to
Right.
get you to do something for them. Think about it. Most people are nice to you and they're like, hey, could you do this thing for me? Boy, you look nice today. Would you like a coffee? That kind of thing. And they're trying to butter you up. Why aren't you treating yourself that way? Why aren't you allowing yourself to do the rest of your job without punishment or recrimination?
Right.
It's, you should do better. I'm going to do better tomorrow. You did great today. So that's another thing that we all have to work on. There is, I think the only exception to that are probably psychopaths. And I don't know what goes on in their head, but everybody else in the creative field, we all have this problem. We all have the imposter syndrome where we think, oh, we're not good enough. We're not organized enough. We're not whatever. We know where the flaws are in this. Nobody's going to want to buy it. Nobody's going to like my work. There are dancing fruit on my screen. Sorry. I could see that without my glasses. I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. No, it's just treat yourself right. Give yourself some grace. Allow yourself the growth and butter yourself up. Get yourself, like I'm going to get myself a nice cup of tea and we're going to go places with art today, Allow yourself the room to mess up, that making mistakes is literally, you're not going to make a piece of work without mistakes. It's going to happen. Embrace it.
Facts.
Because and honestly, some of the mistakes are the best things that have ever happened to me. And if you're afraid of that, you're going to not move forward.
I tell people constantly half of my work is fixing what I have just messed up. And that's how I kind of stumble through everything. It's like, that's just, I don't know, but it's kind of like you said earlier, recognizing yourself and recognizing your process and recognizing your own work. And that's something that I kind of had to come to terms with, is the other thing you talked about. You're going to mess up. Yep. And you're going to be the one who knows where those flaws are. I'm doing it right now as I finish the piece behind me. I know where the flaws are. I show it to people who are like, oh, this is gorgeous. They don't go, I can see that tooling mark over here. Why don't you, So I'm doing the same exact thing that you've been sitting here talking about. I made the joke earlier, but guys, Kyra's here to speak to me today. I'm glad you guys could be here for her TED Talks to me. But she's been speaking directly to me all day. So.
No, I mean, I have a piece in front of me and it's just got a rough pass and I can see everything wrong with it. Actually, it literally is sitting in front of me while I'm talking to you guys, right? And this one's been bugging me for a while and I've got to go back to it and, I've got to address those things. But honestly, it made me angry enough that I set it aside for several months. But
I understand that.
But I'm allowed to do that.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
It really does. I have projects that have been sitting around until I figure them out.
Oh, my dragon, he's been waiting for 1.5 years for me to finish him. Do you know the Burgess dragon one I'm talking about? He looks like a naked mole rat right now, but he does. But he's been.
Don't talk about Burgess like that.
Do you know who I'm talking about? I haven't worked on his fur or anything, so he has a real mole rat look to his hindquarters. It's very odd. But so we have to work with ourselves. We have to learn to separate ourselves from our work. Be into our work. Invest that energy. Don't separate yourself before you invest the creative energy that you're supposed to. Allow yourself to walk away. But when you finish it, allow yourself to appreciate and admire the mistakes rather than use them to beat yourself up with them. And realize that that is the next stepping stone. Not only have you finished this piece, congratulations, you just created the next step that you're moving to as well. So,
Sure.
you know, and that's how you work through that. And you need to separate yourself after you finish it and then let them go. Bless and release, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
let them go live in the world.
Yep.
Be free. Be free.
Be free. Yeah.
Thank everyone in the comments for the gifts and the likes and the shares. Thank you for supporting Kyra and me and Chad, and thank you very much. Rick is in the chat. Rick the Muse has a show 7 p.m. Eastern on Fridays. Y'all go check Rick out when you get a chance. Another guy working hard, doing his thing. Kyra, so I have this quote. I have a couple of them, but you mentioned that you were a pessimist with a silver lining. Is it okay to say this one?
Yeah.
Is it okay to
Yeah,
say this
it's
one?
okay.
Okay. A pessimist with a silver lining that believes in magic. And I love that. And when you said the word magic, in my mind, see, this is an example of how things mean different things, right? In my mind, the magic went to that surrealistic whimsy that you do, right?
Yep.
That's the magic part. When in that sentence, that's what it took me to. But I'm sure that isn't exactly what you meant when you said it. So,
No, it kind
pessimist with
of
a
is.
silver lining that believes in magic.
Yeah, I just I have a very active mind, if you haven't caught on to that yet.
No.
I am always seeking knowledge. Like I said, I read 5 to 7 books a week. I look stuff up constantly. I'm also, I research things and stuff like that. And when you do that, you become hyper aware of what's going on in the world, stuff like that too. And it is very difficult right now to maintain. I don't want to get into politics or any of that. I just want to say it's very difficult to maintain the positive, glittery attitude that I want to.
Yes.
But even though this is my business and it's monetized, it is my escape. This is where I can make a dragon. And magic is real. Dragons exist for me, creatures, my Kraken scared a lot of people with the teeth, but creatures are real,
Right? Yes, it's love.
So,
Yes.
I paint unicorns, I paint dragons, I paint, and I've done plenty of dark art too. I don't share that, but magic is real, and I can turn on Lord of the Rings, and I live in the middle of the woods, so I literally have owls. I have a pair of bald eagles in my yard. I have creatures that come by. There are deer that go through my yard. We haven't really had a moose come close to the house, but they've been out back. And I get to breathe here, and that's, the world is sparkly here for me. And I just paint my world. That's what I want my paintings to be, my images to be, is when somebody looks at it, connects with it on whatever level, but it's a level of escape, of magic, of just fun, comfort, the way the world could be, that kind of thing. I wouldn't go swimming with the Kraken. I like my Kraken. I would not go swimming in that ocean.
Well, there's some ways,
I had a lot of people, my own parents were like, I don't like it, and a lot of people came back and said that they didn't like it, and it's the teeth. So, and I get it, because there's something visceral in us when we see a lot of teeth. We're like, my primal brain is going, not good. So, but yeah, it's magical escape, create my own world, and maybe a window to it for somebody else. So, and that's, I just want to side note here with art and the creative stuff. And you were asking about, business and stuff like that. Just one point that I want people to stick a Post-it note in their head who want to sell art is to know that sorry, everything got really quiet suddenly. Is to know that what you're making is unique to you, So you asked about painting an apple and everything. So the conversation with that is that there are a million people who can paint a picture of an apple. They aren't buying an apple painting from me because it's a painting of an apple. They're buying an apple painting from me because I painted this apple, and that you are the most important ingredient in whatever you create. And then dovetailing that, art is a unique market when you come at it from the business perspective side of it. There's luxury markets, there's necessary, the necessities market and stuff like that. Art is not a luxury, but it's not a necessity too. It's both. It's the kind of thing where you will never see a person saving up for a house go blow $3,000 on a bottle of perfume. Not if they're in their right minds. You won't see that because they're saving up to buy a house. But they can walk by a gallery, see a piece, fall in love, and find a way to make that happen while they're saving up for the house. There is nothing else in the market out there that fits that profile. It is not a luxury, it is a luxury. It's not a necessity, it is a necessity. And so you need to realize that every piece of work that you make, you're making this individualized, unique thing that is going to connect with somebody. And it's not going to connect with everybody, and that's okay. It's not meant to. You marry your soulmate. They weren't meant to connect with 10,000 other people. They were meant to connect with you. Every piece of work that you create is a soulmate for somebody else in its own way. So, and that's something to remember as well.
Absolutely.
So, but
I want to be Kyra Wilson when I grow up. Yes. So you've demonstrated this, but you mentioned that your goal is to help people do better, and
it's a side thing. I get a kick out of it. I enjoy it.
Right.
And
it goes all the way back to that original thing that I was saying before you were actually up in a box here, which was, the talented artist, the thoughtful person that goes with that, and then also this person that is kind, that shares the knowledge, the experience. Because, as you pointed out to us, all of that knowledge that you've come across, you've earned. You've worked and learned and trial and error and successes and mistakes and all of that. So being willing to share that, being willing to take those experiences and share those with us is such a kind thing to do. It really is. It's such a thoughtful, and the way that you present it is you can tell that you've thought through these things, that you've worked through these things, and you've come to an understanding of yourself, where you're at with whatever, the galleries or your promotion, or where, like in our conversation, or like I told Chad when you were coming on, like, of all the people that have ever been on this show, she's doing us a favor. Like, it's kind of, like when Passion for Drawing came on, 100%. He's just a nice guy. He just came on, right? So I hope that there are folks in the chat that if you have any questions, you'll ask them. This is our opportunity. She's been kind enough to say that she would be happy to answer some questions. We're not going to keep her all night. But anybody that's been paying attention for just a few minutes, I hope is able to see that we have a tremendous resource here with us at the moment. So please, any questions that you might have, drop them in the chat. Chad, if you have anything you wanted to throw in at this point, any questions you want, I know you probably would love to throw a question in or two, if she hasn't already answered it, and you may already have answered a lot of them. That's one measure of how good it is that why I say you've thought through these things, because you answered a lot of the questions that would have been asked, I think.
Sure. Something that is said a lot that I would like to ask you about your opinion on. Okay. They say it is, I guess, if your art makes it into a gallery, that it immediately raises the value of your work.
No.
What's your input on that one?
It doesn't. It's just a sales channel. Either you sell it yourself, or a gallery sells it, or you sell it at an art fair. It's just it's a sales venue. Now, some of them have, and they should have the ability to spread your work wider, visibility wise. If it's the right step for you, then yeah, it's absolutely the right thing for you. But like I said, if you're somebody who can't make things fast enough and you're selling out left and right, why would you give
Sure.
away 30, 40, 50% of your work for something you don't need help with, because your collector who already knew you through you is just going to go there and buy it, and you'll just lose 50% and you've already done all the legwork. So
Sure.
it doesn't raise the value of your work. It just raises the profile depending on who you're trying to reach. On the other hand, say you're on a different app, the blue one, and you post in a woodworking group with your sculpture, and somebody loves it and they start sharing it like crazy, and you
Mhm.
suddenly get like 800 shares of that piece. You just achieved the gallery, what you're talking about, reaching out. There's
Sure.
other ways to reach audience. There's other ways to create an organic presence of people who
Mhm.
are interested in your work. A gallery is a tool. A gallery is a business. They are just like you and me. They have their books set up. They know they're in for out. They know what their overhead is. It's the same thing, and they're just
Sure.
a business that you either work with, or it's like hiring a contractor. Either you can finish your bathroom yourself, or you can hire a contractor to do it, and you'll pay him the money to do it.
Sure.
But that's it. That is all a gallery is. Now there is such. Let me qualify that with, I'm not talking blue chip stuff. Blue chip stuff are they're the upper echelon of the galleries, right? You have to know somebody, you have to be the right bloodline, whatever. You have to sell them your children to get in, whatever.
Sure.
It's those are the ones you're seeing, oh, that's going for $1 million, that kind of thing. And it's, there's big Met Gala type opening stuff with it. Um, those places are usually insider artists, and that means you went to the right schools, you knew the right people, you're in the right families. That has nothing to
Right.
do with the art. In my opinion,
Right.
that's the pretentious stuff that people usually think about with galleries. And the reason you think of them that way is marketing.
Right.
Just like marketing a can of soup to you, they've marketed this
Mhm.
idea that galleries are this
Right.
upper echelon rather than a business partner.
Sure. Sure.
So that's it's you have to unprogram some of the programming.
Right. I think one of the
Otherwise you'll
things
be
that I'm
chasing something that
looking
doesn't work.
Sure, sure. I think one of the things I'm looking at as one of my next challenges, and it's just something that this nature of art is, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now is getting much larger, much more defined, and when it is up for sale, it's going to be in a different bracket than what I'm used to dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Like per se, behind me, I have a tree trunk carving. It's rather large. I have a 9 foot one that I'm about to start working on. So I think my brain is trying to wrap around just finding a different, I guess, a bigger market. I'm used to selling paintings. I'm used to selling handheld to knee high sculptures. So now I'm looking at a different market for, as far as like, I mean, who has room for a 9 foot
Right.
carved trunk? Who has the pocketbook for a 9 foot trunk that took me X amount of time.
So
So
my
that's
advice
something
to
that I'm
you, yeah, well, my advice to you would be, don't be afraid to swim in the additional stream, but don't make it your only stream.
sure.
It can become that.
Yeah.
But, as a business, you keep your meat and potatoes together, and
Right.
then you can add some side stuff, but you have the main thing you earn your basic income on. The
Right.
other brackets of money that people need to spend, there are people in those brackets. And
Sure.
so it's okay to move to a different bracket. You just have to realize there's going to be a gap in time where people notice you, are aware of you. It gets quiet for a little bit. That's why you need to make
Yeah.
sure you have your mainstream area too.
Sure.
But it gets quiet for a little bit, but it does pick up. It's just like starting out brand new, except that you have the experience behind you. But when you first started, it's kind of crickets, right?
Yeah.
And then it starts to get louder, and there's more people around and stuff, and it'll reach the right person, and that'll bring more of the right people. But you have to realize, you don't plant a seed in the garden and it's a full grown tree the next day. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
And
Sure.
so even though
Sure.
this is something you've done the carvings, but this is different. And that's
Right.
that's great. But have the patience for it to root and grow the way it needs to. And don't be discouraged that these things take time, because that's just growth. That's whether it's in
Sure.
your business or in your art or whatever, you just have to allow and plan for an undetermined amount of time
Right.
that it
Right.
will need to, achieve what you're hoping to.
Yeah.
So, but don't be afraid of, I mean, even if you're staying in the same thing and you're like, hey, I've been charging, $50 for these little things forever, but I really think they're worth more like 100, you know, that's okay too. Understand when you jump brackets for your stuff, that it'll get quiet again briefly, but the new
Sure.
bracket will start to populate. And your work is as cheap as it'll ever be today. you were this is that's I had another artist say this to me, and I thought, boy, that's brilliant. He's like, my art will never be cheaper than it is today. Today is the best deal you can
Wow.
possibly get.
That's yes,
Wow.
So
that's good. That's good.
I like that. I do like that. Well, luckily enough, I kind of operate on both sides. That it is definitely my therapy, but I do sell my work as a business. So when I went into the larger pieces, I kind of knew that, but I kind of do what you were talking about earlier. I operate in a what can I do next? What have I not been able to accomplish? What is my next bigger challenge for myself? And not even size wise, but so yeah, I kind of float in both of those windows. So that I think that will help me along the way. So
I mean, it sounds
yeah,
it
He
sounds
does.
intriguing. So
He does float in both those windows, certainly. That's so. Eve's artistry has a question that seems interesting to me too. Is I think I understand what she's asking you here. Not fitting into one art modality has hindered my known for publicly. How do I fix that?
so say it again.
She said, not fitting into one art modality, in quotes, has hindered my known for, in quotes, publicly. How do I
Meaning
fix
that you're
that?
working, like you're doing abstracts, but you're also doing portraits, like that kind of
I,
thing.
I think so. I think that's what she's saying. She does different types of art, so it doesn't all fit into one, like the groupings that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Her this piece behind me is a
Yes.
piece of hers, and it is nothing like anything she would normally do. For as an example, I think of what she's talking about. The Jack from the. So I have a piece of art hanging behind me that isn't even really representative of her art. I think that in that vein is where we're at.
So, okay. Well, there is a difference between what you need to sell versus what you need to grow versus what you need to keep. And so, what I mean by that is, you are going to find that some things strike a better chord than others in the market. You can choose to chase or not. And the decision to do that is, do I find this fulfilling? Is this a box that I'm going to go into that I'm going to be uncomfortable with? And is this something that has the room to keep going? That kind of thing. Um, so, should you sell it? Should you keep it for yourself? That is, I do abstract paintings too. As a matter of fact, when I first started showing in galleries, it was all abstract. My first gallery piece that sold was abstract. Um, it's okay to work in different modes and everything, because I do as well. Um, that's not why it's okay. It's just okay. Because it's about being well-rounded as an artist. But every bit of what you put into your world as a creator does not need to be given to the world. And there's a couple reasons why. One, it can confuse them. I if I start putting up abstracts, and I do occasionally share the abstracts, but I get people who are like, I'm so confused. It's like, you were doing cats, and now there's just a wall of color, and it's like, yeah, okay. And I get that you're reaching a certain market that's expecting a certain thing for you, which is why if you're into niche selling, which is you find a niche market, and say you're just going to paint trees, just trees over and over and over again, and they sell big and everything. If you suddenly throw in a dog, people are like, why am I looking at a dog? I'm here for the trees. So there is a monetization stream where you have to maintain a conversation, with your public and your buyers and everything, right? There is this area of growth where you experiment with different things, where the buyers may be interested, where there's overlap and crossover, right? And that is an opportunity for you to switch tracks, to grow, to chase something, and then go, it wasn't for me, and then switch tracks again and stuff. But it's close enough to the mainstream that you can keep it. And that one overlaps with the stuff you should keep to yourself because it doesn't belong to anybody else. And even though I said we separate ourselves from our pieces, we're still giving part of ourselves away with every piece. Don't give everything away. And I'm not saying hoard your work or anything. I'm saying, like, I throw pots and I sculpt. And I'm not going to say whether I'm good at it or not because it doesn't matter, because I'm never going to sell it. I'm not going to show people. You know, I showed people my little dragon thing, which looks a little like a high school project, you know. But it is a joy to me. It is fun. I love it. I will have lots of flower pots, but I'm not going to sell them. I'm not, you know, that I get the creative outlet release, and monetizing that would take something away and would make it more empty. So do you sell it? Do you explore it? Or do you keep it to yourself? And so if you're showing everybody all your cards and not keeping anything for yourself, it's going to confuse them. It's going to make you feel less than. And also it's going to give you less to protect too. Because like I was talking about having a thin skin and everything, part of protecting yourself is having a foundation that nobody else can touch. And you find that a lot of ways. A lot of people find it in their kids or their pets or whatever, their music, you know, something that they don't share with the world. And that keeps you grounded and it's yours. But creatives need more than that. You need part of your creative sparkle that is still yours. So if you're putting them all out there, you're going to make yourself feel less. You're going to confuse everybody. And that's probably part of the problem that you're facing, is that you're sharing too much and people aren't taking it in. It's like being hit with too much stuff. So, and people have a lot of tracks in their head for themselves, but it's hard to provide those tracks to everybody else. Because we only, you know, the spoon theory, you only have so many spoons. And if they're looking at art, they've only got so many spoons to look at that art. So you kind of have to meet your market where it's at.
I think you answered two questions with that answer, actually, which is amazing. But it just for clarification, in Eve's instance, Eve's a painter, but she paints in multiple styles and multiple subject matter. And so I think on her end of the question, it was more along the lines of, I think you answered it to a large degree. I think what you're saying is maybe don't share as many of those. As an example, if she does a variety of styles and a variety of subject matter, are you saying maybe keep some of those to herself and don't show them publicly? And
I'm
then,
saying, honestly, if she was my client, I would say I'm going to give you a journal assignment. For real, I give homework. So,
right.
And
Yeah,
the homework
me too.
is, I want you to figure out, of the work you've done, of the different styles you have done, what speaks to you, what feeds your soul, and what do you want people to know you as? Like you want somebody to walk in and see all these paintings, and you want these ones to be, oh, that's her style. That's Eve's style, or Eva, sorry.
Eve, that's correct.
Eve. Okay. Sorry, bad with names, but
No, you're right.
you're
right.
Which one do you want to be remembered for? That you it's not about sharing all of it. It's like, I really want people to see this. And sometimes it's not landscape. Sometimes it's a concept. Like with mine, some of mine have landscapes in them and stuff, but the concept is still there in this surrealism, whimsy, magic kind of stuff. That's me. That's where it's always been there. Even in my abstracts, I was like swirls and colors and all sorts of things. And that's always been where I wanted to go. And that is where my legacy is. And it's like, this isn't a biography. This is a snapshot of who you are. And you need to keep some of that for yourself. And it's not just for you, but it is for you. You have to have part of your soul in order to keep growing and rebuild and, renew. And then what you share, you have to feel good about sharing. And that goes down to cohesiveness as well. Like, have a cohesive portfolio. Figure out which pathway speaks to you. You could go, that's the problem artists face too, is in creative industries. And when I say artists, I mean any creative industry. You are a master of many different paths. You could go this way, you could go that way, you could be successful on any one of them. And that can paralyze you because you're like, I have 20 choices here, and I could do well at any of them. I'm afraid to let any of them go because what if that was the one? And that is where you have to stop and you have to close your eyes and you have to breathe and you say, which one speaks to me? Which one is which you have to follow your gut, because this isn't as analytical as I can be. This is not an analytical process, Creation is about following the energy. It's about what speaks to you, what speaks to your soul. I know that all sounds Fruit Loopy, but I'm a very analytical person. I don't usually go off into unicorn rainbow land except in my paintings. But the truth is that there is something to it. There is something about this speaks to my soul. This speaks to who I am. Yes, I can paint a picture of people. They don't always look right, but I can paint a picture of people, but that doesn't speak to me. I want to put wings on a fox. That does. I don't know why, but it does. And that's the direction that I go. So when you have all these pieces out in front of you, when you think of, this is who I am, which one of those pieces, directions, mediums that you're using, which one of those is, this is who I am? Because whatever that is, even if it's a couple, sorry, my cat just went over my head. Even if it's a couple different ones, you've just narrowed it down significantly. And then it'll continue to whittle down. It's okay that it's kind of open like that, though, because you're still going to grow and you're going to change paths, because that's the natural nature of this. It's not linear. So give yourself room to go, but give yourself guidance.
That's great information. That's great information. And yes, the reason I brought that up again too is Eve was a guest on a few weeks ago, and I went and looked at her Etsy page, and we had some conversations, and she talked about this. But I thought of her when you and I were talking yesterday evening about how the disconnectedness of the various, like, let me see if I can explain this. When I came across your work, I was able easily to see the surrealistic whimsy. It was there. It was obvious, and it was across your works, right? It was across the spectrum of the stuff that I got to see. And I struggle with that because I wonder, right? I love the fact that I never do anything twice, like all of my stuff. But there is, when you look at my work, I've had people tell me, I can kind of tell that it was you that did it though, man. I don't know why, but I can kind of tell that it was you. So finding whatever that is, it sounds to me like, is more important than like bulk, than putting out a mass amount of something. Yeah. Hone in on exactly what, like, you're not just the target audience, but which pieces, which type of pieces would get me where I'm trying to go. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And maybe that's just because that's kind of the way my brain works, but that makes a lot of sense to me. There's also this thing that we talked about that has to do with, see if I can get this right. If you're creating art and it's coming from a very personal place, then it's hard to like you mentioned this earlier, it's hard to disconnect that personal process with the business side of, now you're actually just selling. Petra comes to mind. Petra's palette comes to mind. Her art is so personal and she puts so much into it. And SA Artistries is another person. There's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of meaning. There's a lot of research that goes into before the piece is even conceived. Mm-hmm. And I think those particular artists that I mentioned, that process puts them within their realm almost, if that makes sense. Like keeps them within their guardrails. Whereas there are other folks that have so many different interests and they want to try so many different things that maybe the advice there is just to hold some of them for themselves. That would be the simplest way to do that, right? Thank you, Ezra. Thank you. Appreciate you, man.
Cool.
Thanks for stopping in, Ezra. That is our dear friend Ezra who looks out for us, and we appreciate you, man. He makes sure that we get to stay on the air. So for me, for example, just teasing that out a little bit, I do, antique stuff, I do instrument stuff, and I do custom stuff. And people get confused because they don't necessarily always understand why one dude does so many different things. And how could you do anything well if you're doing multiple things at one time? But they all came out of the woodworking process. Right? Mm-hmm. One path took me into instruments, one path took me into antiques, and one path took me into building my own custom stuff. So in my mind, they make sense, but I really had to tease that out. In fact, I started a TikTok page. The other one is music related, guitar stuff.
Yeah.
So
I would tell you to split your businesses. I would say to have 2 web pages, have your custom stuff, and then have your antiques and music together.
Right. And I've had people tell me that, and I've had people put them all together. So I agree with you, though. I think that at some point there will have to be some sort of a separation to where one.
You don't want a customer to have to come to you. You don't want a customer to come to you and have to wade through and figure it out. And the first thing that they should be able to do is land on your site and basically get an idea of what's going on. And if they have to figure it out, you're asking for them to put energy into something that they're not going to want to do. They already have to put energy into their whole day. Everybody's just as busy and stressed out as you are, and to have to figure out, even though everything's great on your site, but if they're really there for custom work and they've got to figure out why are there antiques and guitars here, the guitars and the antiques I can see crossing over, and that's why I could see that being together. But the custom work is its own special thing, right? And so you can have 2 presences online, and the audience for those will go to the correct areas, and they won't get too confused that you have a second business. They'll just go, oh, okay. But if it's all at once, they're like, why am I seeing all of this? Maybe he doesn't know his stuff as well as I thought. And
that's why if you go to my website, there's nothing about instruments or antiques. It's all just custom builds. There's nothing about anything else on the website. It's just custom builds.
Well, you need another website for the other side, though. You need that.
Right. I'll get to that when but there's the other side of it. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, though. I don't really, how many guitars can I make in a year? I don't need more. Yeah. You know what I mean? How many sculptures can Chad actually do in a year? So, for me, I'm okay. Like if I miss out on an opportunity to fix somebody's guitar, I'm okay with that because I have so many other things kind of going on, if that makes sense. But yes,
no, it does.
eventually I may start a website that actually has the guitar stuff on there, and I may keep the antique stuff for myself. Who knows? But for example, some of the musicians that I work with are not on TikTok and don't want to be on TikTok. So that's content that doesn't go on this platform. It's content that don't go on any platforms. Mm-hmm. So it really hit home to me too when you were talking about make sure that you're doing and you're only sharing what you want to share. You get to make the rules. You get to decide what you share with the public and what you don't. So all the way back to Eve, our dear friend Eve in the chat, I think we're onto something here, Eve. I think the journal and figure out exactly which one of those areas, and that will move the ball forward. But Kyra, there are also this nexus between art and business that you pointed out to me in the conversation that pointed out's the wrong way, that we discussed that has to do with oftentimes the creative side, the folks that are focused on the creative side. It's almost like their brain doesn't work on the business side. They don't have that. You are talented. Like the way you articulated it to me is when you went to college, the business stuff was easy breezy for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally would have graduated as an honor student had I not taken business courses. Because on the education and the psychology stuff, I was straight A's. When I took business courses, I literally dropped out for that semester because I hated it so much. Like, that isn't a made up story. That's reality. Now, that was also a lot of years ago, but I think that's a huge point that you made. And I appreciate you sharing that, because just sometimes hearing another artist or another person say something like that helps contextualize it, if that makes sense. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Now every person who wants to monetize their business, even if they don't want it to be their full-time business, should understand how the business works. So when I take on a client, I don't take on a client and mentor their techniques or anything. That's not what I'm talking about. I take them on and I mentor whatever it is that they're trying to achieve with their business. And one of the very first things I do for the ones that want to monetize is we figure out how much one of their pieces costs. Like, cost them, not what they sold it for, but what did it cost you to make this? And most of the time, before we even get into adding any sort of time, labor, or anything, they've already surpassed what somebody's paid for. So they're paying somebody else to take their work. And so, it is really important that you understand that if you're monetizing this, the lights that are on over your head, that's part of your cost. The equipment that you're using, that's part of your cost. If your market outreach involves being on the internet and reaching out on TikTok or anywhere else, and you need a phone for that, guess what? That's part of your cost. Now, is it all at once? Like, hey, my phone was $500. That all goes in there? No, that's, you portion things out. But you still need to understand, as a business, how you function. A freestanding copy business that's making copies, they're paying for the electricity, the water, the building that they're in, everything. There are all these overhead costs. And you are no different. You're going to have to figure out what those are and everything, but finding out the value of what your work is versus what you're charging for it versus what the market will bear, because there's a couple other things too, versus where you want to go with it. And so there are certain questions that you have to answer, and also knowledge that you need to have. And one of my biggest criticisms about any of the art degrees that are out there is that they don't put business in. They send all these artists out like, sure, go make your living now. And there's no structure or knowledge of the cost of doing business. What is your product actually costs you? Never mind the emotional cost. I mean, what does it physically cost you? I use a paintbrush, but I use them up. I beat these things, these things are falling apart, and I have to buy new ones. You have equipment that you use up that you need to factor in to what you are creating. And it's not just, oh, well, the tree cost me $50 and then I put gas in my whatever to carve it and that's it. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. What's the table it's sitting on? What are the lights overhead? Where are you standing? Are you renting the place you're standing? Do you own it? Are you paying property taxes? I mean, there's a lot there, not to scare anybody off, because it's not that hard. Once you know your cost, you can figure them in. And I actually have a spreadsheet that I set mine up in, and they're pennies and stuff here. But like, hey, did you include a business card when you sent this out? Guess what? Yeah, it cost you what, 0.05 cents to make that business card because you ordered 10,000. Cool. It still counts. It goes in the spreadsheet. And you do need to balance how much something costs you to make, how much you need to make from it in order to continue creating in your own life. And sorry, my cat's driving me crazy.
Kitty cat.
Yeah, one of my 4. But you need to understand the actual cost of doing business, and then you need to understand what your market's willing to pay and how that's going to grow for you. And sometimes you might start out underwater. You might be like, hey, I'm new to this business. It cost me $200 to make this, but nobody's going to pay $250 to make it or to buy it. So I have to charge $180. but you start building it, and then suddenly you're charging $500, $600, $2,000 and stuff like that, but it's still costing you $200 to $250 or whatever to make. So it's all part of a plan, but what's important is that you understand how it works. And there are so many artists that are being sent out into the wild and they don't understand that. And even the ones who suddenly achieve this success with it don't understand why things aren't working out the way they thought it would, or they get hit by taxes, and that really gets them. You know, as a sole contractor, you need to understand that. So where you charge taxes, where's your business nexus, which means where do you do business?
Insurance.
You know, so yeah, insurance.
Insurance is
So
a big one for me because my business is at my home. The
yeah,
equipment, the kind of equipment that I use is all, like you said, blades, everything needs to be sharpened. Everything needs to be taken care of. And that takes a certain amount of time. You're absolutely 100%. Of course, you don't need me to tell you that. You already know. I'm just agreeing along with you. Yes, yes,
yeah.
and yes, and yeah.
You know,
You,
that's, I want people to be successful. I don't want to scare them off from this. I don't want to make them feel bad, because I think every single artist there out there can be successful, period. If you want to be the way you want to be, it's possible. It really is. What you have to do to achieve that success and whether or not that's fulfilling, that's something you have to ask yourself. But and this was something else we talked about, the competition in the art world. I did want to bring that up briefly.
yeah, please.
There is no competition, period. There's none. There's none. You're not competing with anybody but yourself. And what people think, oh, no, because I saw this other, we were at an art fair and the person bought the painting next to me, you know, in the stall next to me. And it's like, were you selling exactly the same thing? Like it was a photocopy of the same thing? Like you guys are just selling prints or something and it was the same print by the same artist? Because if not, there's no competition, because you are selling work that is created by you. Like I said, like a fingerprint. Your stuff is entirely unique, and the audience for your stuff is probably not the same audience for the other guy's stuff. And so there's no competition. But what there is success that benefits everybody in the arts. And so this is where people need to remember this. You know, I understand the feelings of jealousy when somebody makes it big or something like that. You wish that was you. But taking that energy and going, I'll keep working, instead of being like, well, I'm mad at them. You need to understand that when somebody sells a piece of work, that buyer is, say it's the first time buyer. This person's at an art fair, they walk by, they see this piece of work, they bought it. It's not just one sale. That person is going to take that original piece of work home and they're going to display it, and their family and their friends are going to see it. It might show up on their social media or whatever, and your name's going to get out. But in addition to that, say they never mention your name again. What it will do is it will make the idea of owning original art something that is achievable and normal. Like, you can do this. It isn't just a print from Walmart or something. You yourself, you can actually own an original piece of work. You can have an original piece of work on your wall or on a stand or in your kitchen or whatever. You too can do that because it's normal. You're normalizing buying original work. And so every time somebody makes a sale, every time somebody does well in the art community, it helps every single one of us, because that other person who walked by and went, oh, he bought an original piece of work, I guess I could be open to that too. And then that person goes walking along, they see something that they connect with, which is different from the other person. And maybe it was your work that he passed by. And suddenly it's normal to buy original work. And so he does. And so, you know, my friend, I had a dear friend artist who passed away last year, right before Christmas. And his name is Joshua Coffey. And if you're in San Francisco, you probably have seen his murals everywhere and everything. He was amazing. And he liked to quote, I think it was Kennedy who said, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that is never more true than it is in the artistic community, because it is all about art being important, original art. So if somebody buys an original piece, it benefits you, even if you didn't see a dime from it. Even if you don't know that person and you come across them on some sort of social media platform and you're like, they have, you know, 1 million followers and they're clearly making millions of dollars out of that. It benefits you. Instead of being negative about it, be really happy, because that is spreading the idea of you being successful too. It helps you too. So the second anybody brings competition into this, it's not a competition. It's not. It can't be. So. and that's just negativity talking, and it's misguided. It really has no factual basis behind it. So that's all. That's my
I love
soapbox.
it. Absolutely amazing. Chad, we have about 12 minutes until you have to put the little one down, if I'm not mistaken.
I have to let my
So
cat
I know
out
if you
too.
need,
I'm still here.
I'd like, if you need to hit the eject button, please do so. And I know that if you have something to say or comment or whatever, now would probably be good. And we're gonna wrap it up soon. I just wanted to
I'm
make
just
sure
thoroughly
that you were.
enjoying it.
Yeah,
The
man,
person who broke
absolutely.
the person who broke the seal for me and bought a painting was actually their first original purchase. And as soon as they bought the painting from me, everybody started lining up. And he's in here right now. Thank you, Jeremy DeLevitt. You were just talking about making that a normal. And
Yeah.
gentleman right here with us. The
There's a
exact
couple
thing you're
folks in the
talking about.
chat with your artwork. There's one with your
Oh,
sculpture in
yeah.
here too.
Yeah.
And so, Kyra, you in our conversation, and you mentioned it earlier. You were talking about legacy, and you were talking about a totally different kind of legacy. And I appreciate the education, because when you were talking about that before, in my mind, I was thinking, this was my great grandfather's. He used this working in the shipyards in the late 1800, early 1900. This belonged to my mom's dad. It was just a simple screwdriver, but it was my grandfather's. And every time
Okay.
I pick it
Yeah.
up, I think of him. This belonged to my stepfather. It's just a simple square, but all of those were within reach. So part of that thing that you were talking about of legacy, and also part of the thing that you were talking about of putting yourself into your work. That's the other thing that I think I've heard artists talk about, that I can connect to, that I relate to, that I've heard Chad talk about, is some of us carry all of those people that helped us along the way, and some that didn't help us along the way even. But all of us carry those experiences or those hopes and dreams of those around us. And I feel that pressure as well when I'm creating something. I'm thinking back to, these people that helped me get where I'm at in whatever capacity, and the legacy that entails, right? Almost a legacy going the other direction. The people that got us here, that we may never know. And it strikes me that you're talking about, when someone buys a piece of art, and it has these ramifications that we may not be able to see. I think that's also the case, is whenever we have these measures of success, it also grows because the folks that carried us to this point are there with us, if that kind of makes sense. So there's a draw there. There's what goes into my work isn't just me while we're sitting there contemplating, as you were saying, your husband might see you just sit there staring at the screen, for example. You're actually thinking about all of those things. In my world, I'm thinking about, my great grandpa and my grandpa, and wow, how it's weird that I'm working on this particular thing, and something breaks in my shop, and I go look for a little nut or bolt to fix it, and it usually comes out of a drawer that was in my grandfather's shop that is now in my shop. So we're all connected, right? We're all in some kind of way connected. And art addresses that for me. Art is something that fits into the space where we can all walk into. My great grandfather probably wouldn't like me much in the world that we live in, right? My grandfather did, right? But if they saw a piece of my work, I bet they'd both like it, right? So art is something that can connect people that wouldn't normally be connected. That's the other thing about the legacy that popped in my head. And I know that isn't a business side of it. That's more the personal side of it.
That's still a creative side of it. I mean, we're a a quilted network of all the pieces of people that have come before, all the interactions, all we're our own unique combination of all of our experiences. Whether that experience is through a tool that you have of somebody you've met or haven't met.
Right.
You run into people, and even the negative experiences can shape you in a positive way. So
Absolutely.
it's sometimes hard to feel that way.
Yeah, right, right.
But it's, you are the sum of all these experiences and thoughts and things, and that's why each artist's work is so individually unique. And that's why if somebody comes to you or to Chad for something, they want something that is made by that recipe of who you are. And that's why your work later on has, a different sort of value as well, because you'll have grown and changed, but you can look back and see that chain. So
Yes.
it's important to respect where you're going, but it's also, it's important to respect where you've been and to not disregard that. Whether, you're working through something with your art and it's very negative or personal, like you talked about, some of the other artists have very, incredibly personal work, or you are looking at moving forward and you're thinking, this is how I want the world to be, or how this, you're creating something like a guitar and you're thinking about the music that somebody will have the opportunity to create that they didn't have before. And all of that comes from all the ingredients that are you, which is why it's so unique and so special and just you. And every single artist has that. Every single creator, author, composer, they all have that. You are unique in you. And in a world of billions of people, it is hard to feel unique and incredibly isolating at the same time to also feel different. And so we're also at war with that. But you want to use it for a strength, because it is literally the most important ingredient in your business, in your moving forward with your work. So
You are the most important ingredient in your business. Imagine that.
or if you
That's
don't
amazing.
monetize it, even if you don't monetize it,
Yeah.
you're the most important ingredient in your work. So
Right, right. I love it. That's amazing. That is a perfect pin to put in it, I think. Um, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would have liked to spoke on that I messed up and skipped over or something, or
no,
that
I
you feel
told you
like
I
would
don't
be
have an agenda.
right,
I'm,
right.
I'm
Well,
here to
just
answer questions and help people.
right on. Just anything that you could think of that maybe we didn't cover that would be important to note or anything like that. I think you did a great job of covering it, but you know a lot of stuff I don't know, so I'm not even sure if we missed something that I don't know we missed.
No, I am, I don't, like when we spoke, it's like, I don't have an agenda. Do I sell my work? Yes. Am I going to talk about selling my work and say, hey, go to my site? No, because
Right.
people will find me. I'm okay with that. I get a kick out of helping people. I want all artists to be successful, not just because it helps me too, but because it helps everybody. There's very little community left in this world, and the art community presents one that still is there. I mean, there's some drama in it, but the truth is there doesn't have to be, because there's not really competition. There really isn't. And so for me, the art community is priceless. And I want my community to be healthy. And so if somebody has a question, I'm going to answer it. I will. You got to catch me on live, because that's not my content on here. The only reason I'm on here is I thought it'd be fun to have some company while I work on my work. And if you catch me on the live while I'm working on something, I'm happy to chat and answer questions. And I just want people to do well. I want people to do well. And it's not for monetary gain. It's not for anything else, except it makes me feel good. And I want people to succeed in art. Feeling the fulfillment of art and doing what you're supposed to do, because this is where your soul lives. It's such a weird thing, because you don't see other creatures in National Geographic going, I really got to paint this flower, but it's there for us. We are unique in that we find complete fulfillment in creation, and that is unique and that is rare, and it deserves to be respected and nurtured and protected. And that's something that, regardless of where you stand on all the religion, politics, world drama, this matters too. and protecting this matters. And so if you catch me on live and you have a business question, an art question, I am more than happy to answer. It helps me to help you. So I want you to do well. I just want everybody to do well. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's the truth.
No, and it is a genuine thing, y'all. She like actually means it and lives it and demonstrates it, and all you got to do is look at her work and look how she's moved, and it's obvious. So thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on. I'm humbled by the fact that you would do so, and I I've seen, I don't know if you noticed or not, but Seb and Italo were in the chat, the guys that I was mentioning from Theria before, and they were excited. And if we still have permission to put this interview over on the YTubes, then they're actually going to make it 2 episodes, I think, which is amazing. I kind of figured they'd dig this one. Because it's so informative. I mean, there is an education in the last hour and a half, literally.
Yeah, you'll feel free to put it up. You can't follow my page,
Eve, yeah, I don't know. I'll check the settings, Eve, and you as a moderator are able to do everything. There isn't anything that's unchecked. So I'm not sure. Maybe you're still under outlaw status, Eve. I know that, you know, I'm teasing. I don't know. I have no idea why that's working. But please make sure to follow Kyra. Not that she needs our follows, but she's an amazing human being, an amazing resource on this app. We're lucky to have her here, and I, for one, plan on reaching out to you and asking questions.
Feel free.
And I hope that others will do the same, but that you're not inundated with such requests. So
yeah, if you catch me on live, that's the best time for me to just answer your questions really quickly. So.
And is there a particular time, or do they just, thank you, Darcy, do they just need to set notifications to catch you?
So notifications are best. When I get back into my normal habit, I usually go live Monday nights from like 6 to 9 Eastern, which sometimes runs later. I tend to do like a one-sitting painting, so I'll start from scratch and we'll end, you know, with a finished painting. Usually. So I've been a little off. I've got some things coming. I have 4 different gallery deadlines. So it's going to be a little bit, which means I'll go live sporadically. So like the notifications would be best for that, because I'm not going to keep to a normal schedule because I'm following the fuel. So
I got you. Well, thank you so much, Kyra. I really appreciate it. We've reached 11 o'clock, which means I know this guy has to go put his daughter to bed. And we planned it that way. That's why we started beginning at 9 o'clock, so we could make sure that we were able to do that. So thank you so much, Kyra. I really appreciate it. I would encourage everyone to follow, to turn on your notifications, and to reach out to this amazing human being. An incredible artist, an incredible person, and a great mind, and you usually don't get all 3 in the same person. So ta-da! Ta-da! And for anybody that's interested, I'll probably come on in a little while after I take a break and do a live and work on some stuff in the shop. So if y'all want to stop in and chat about what we've been chatting about tonight. But before that happens, I'm going to go right now, Seb and Italo, as soon as this is over, I'm going to go and download this episode and load it on the YTubes over there so that y'all have a copy as soon as you need it, should you need it. And that usually takes me 30 minutes or so. So I'll probably come back and see who's out there working on stuff at that point. Cool. Is there anything that I could do, Kyra, that would make your life easier, that would be... would make it easier for you to function on this platform? I don't know that there is, but Chad and I are here. I'll speak for Chad. We're here for you. We're 100% Team Kyra. So if there's anything in the future that you need announced, or you need that we could be helpful in any way, please, it goes both ways. Please reach out to us as well. There are some things we do know about.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
No, thank you very much for having me. I'm sorry I talked your ear off, but it seemed to be okay.
It was awesome.
Yes, it was absolutely amazing, and you covered every note that I had as far as I know that we discussed. And I would encourage everyone, please reach out if you have a question. There's you don't always get an answer for someone that has a thoughtful answer. Sometimes people will just give blurt out answers like, if you have your art in the gallery, now your gallery's worth that much. And there's nuance to everything. So,
Yep.
so please reach out to the expert, because we were lucky enough to have a expert here today. So thank you. Also, thank you to your husband for it takes away from his time for you to be able to share with us. That's part of the
That's
opportunity
true.
cost, right? So we're grateful. We are grateful to him for providing us with some of what might have been his time.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope you guys have a really good night.
Have a good
Thank you
night,
so much,
everyone.
Kyra.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
All right.
Kyra. I can't thank you enough. You're amazing. Thank you to Chad Rev Art. He's amazing too. The other folks, the moderators, the folks that help make this show happen, thank you so much. And that's why we're here. We wouldn't be here without you. So thank everyone. We
Yep.
hope you have a great night. Look for us in 30 minutes or so. We'll try to get back on. Thank you again, Kyra. Really appreciate you. Absolutely amazing stuff today. I'm going to go download it right now.
All right,
Awesome.
thanks.
Take care, everybody. Thank you. Good night, Kyra. Thank
Bye,
you so
everybody.
Good night.
much. Bye-bye.
See you
Thanks, Chad. You're the
Thursday.
man, buddy. Appreciate